Okay, here we are. Going to talk about the poem Ozymandias, or I don't care how you want to pronounce it. I just say Ozymandias. Um, Note that we've got this list of characteristics of the Romantic era, and one of the main ones I think in this poem is this fascination with the ruins of time. Uh, so, to give you a little more context on that, we have the historical setting for the poem was one in which this poet named Percy Shelley had a sort of a fun rivalry with this other poet who actually turned out to be not that famous. But they were going to write a sonnet about the arrival of this statue in England. And here's the first manuscript that we have of Ozymandias. So, and it was all about this, inspired by this old relic, which actually is quite tall. Um, I don't know exactly how tall, but I feel like that would be the height of a human right around in here. So let's look at the poem itself. Again, we have a frame narrative in that we have the speaker who is traveling around and meets another person who is also traveling. That's you could call that mise on a beam, also very romantic too. I met a traveler from an antique land. This is iambic pentameter, who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert." Okay, so here we get the traveler that the speaker meets telling us what he has observed. This relic, this artifact, two vast and trunkless legs of stone. Okay, so trunkless means without a body. They stand in the desert. It's broken, perhaps. Near these legs of stone, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies. Okay, a face, a sculpture of a face. So we gotta get reminded about this guy here. It's not totally shattered here, but in the poem it is. He's got a little bit of a head injury. Okay. He sees this shattered visage, and then he describes it right here. Whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command. I want to pause right here. It's really important to know what's being detailed here. He's seeing this face, this visage, and the visage that's sculpted in the stone has got a frown. Okay, now frown meaning, in this sense, a smile, but not. I think of maybe Mona Lisa. Okay, this it's a look on the lips. We don't know exactly what is behind it. We also know that there's a wrinkled lip, and then even a sneer of cold command. He is describing a statue of a ruler who is not just a ruler, but a powerful ruler, used to commanding people, who used to maybe even sneering, um, and he's got this very strong personality, okay, and no doubt commissioned himself to be made into a giant statue. And the speaker, the traveler who is talking about this, says that the sculptor must have well understood, which yet survive, these characteristics stamped on these lifeless things. Okay, let's pause for a minute here. I want to read this again. So, near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command, okay, the face on this sculpture, suggest or tell that it's a sculptor well those passions read which yet survive. Okay, you can still see those passions as they survived. And they're not necessarily good passions. They're passions of a dictator. And they're stamped on these lifeless things. The lifeless things meaning the stones and the sculpture work. And okay, I wanted to pause because I had to do a little bit of puzzling just to jog my memory of these lines because they always and the thing is there is a little bit of ambiguity here in this line. Okay, so we know that the sculptor does a good job of conveying the personality of the ruler. And then there's something about the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. Okay, whose heart is being fed and what hand is, I feel like the hand of the sculptor is mocking the ruler, and something about the ruler whose heart was fed by these passions of ruling with such a a cold command. So but scholars have talked about the difficulty of totally understanding this line, and also note that maybe it's not meant to be understood because we have the ruler speaking to the sculptor creating the sculpture outlasting the empire of the ruler, the sculpture being found by a traveler, the traveler telling this tale to the speaker of the poem, and then the speaker of the poem creating this poem for us to read. So there's so many like layers of removal from the actual event, and maybe that's something, that sort of mysterious ambiguity is being conveyed here in that line. But the important thing to know here is that the artist, the sculptor here, does a good job of characterizing and capturing the ruthlessness of Ozymandias. Also, and on the pedestal, these words appear. So there's an engraving. Okay, kind of funny though that it would have been in hieroglyphics. I guess it's in English somehow, mysteriously. Ancient aliens. I don't know. Time travelers. Whatever. We'll just take it for what it is, because it's still good. But obviously, the pharaoh or the ruler, emperor, wanted the sculptor to write this inscription underneath the statue on the pedestal, which says, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." He's addressing the mighty, other rulers of the age, or any other rulers that may have come by afterwards and seen this monument, or his empire, or the lasting presence of the works that he completed. Because we know the Egyptians loved to build fantastic things. He wanted all the other rulers to see this magnificence and to despair. Look at how great I am. And yeah, you might be a ruler. You're not as great as me. So too bad for you. Go wallow in your despair. That also was telling of the kind of person Ozymandias may have been. By the way, Ozymandias is a Greek name for Ramses, one of the Ramses pharaohs of ancient Egypt. So he was a cold guy, a killer, no doubt, maybe psychopathic to some extent, as maybe you had to be if you were enslaving like thousands and thousands of people to, well, who knows what was going on in ancient Egypt. It's just so full of mystery. Again, a great subject for the Romantics to speculate as to what was happening with this this empire, which was so advanced in so many ways, but yet maybe so cruel and inhumane. Not that there weren't some inhumane things going on with child labor and industrialism at the time, and maybe Percy Shelley is trying to draw a comparison between the sacrifices made for the sacrifices that are made through progress and creating great things in a civilized culture, well, there's a price for that. In Egypt, it was, the sweat, labor, and blood and tears and suffering of the people that actually had to do all this terrible labor generation after generation after generation, is the same thing getting repeated in British colonialism. Okay, Percy Shelley perhaps could be pointing at that in a very subtle way, very Shakespeareanly subtle, critiquing his culture. Okay, and then we have the nice closeout here. Look on my works, ye mighty, in despair. And then the speaker, or the traveler, says, nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. So this is an image of vastness. There's only one thing, one figure in the background of almost nothingness. Level sands stretching far and away. If you've ever been in a desert, or even on a boat where you can't see the shore and all you just see is just horizon, okay, that's a pretty intense experience and feeling. And that's conjured up here in this image. And it suggests how nature is the main emperor. Okay, humans can try as much as they want to become gods, but they don't last. Their statues, which they think will immortalize them, are lost and covered up in sand and are falling apart. And even then, the artist is the one who gets the last laugh, because we see the mockery of the artist. Okay, and I think we have to look again at that line, the hand that mocked them. Okay, the hand of the sculptor that was mocking the ruler for his cruel ways. Was Shakespeare mocking King James? So there's something about the artist that has a greater ability to connect with the timeless. And that rulers and emperors, as powerful as they are, no matter what their greatness, what they accomplish, time is going to level all of that. So, who's the boss now?